Welcome to the jungle.
It was. For a moment. It's right.
Would you say, oh, there we go. Would you guys like to hear a joke? Here's a bad one.
Welcome to Airplay. My name is Michael Koretsky. I'm a national board member with the Society of Professional Journalists. Airplay is really a series of 3 debates. The first is the shortest, and it's right now. So in the afternoon, this is my little tease, we're going to dive into that topic. For now, I want to talk about, is the gaming press ethical?
Games media has long had a problem with corruption and ethical issues.
Joining us today are Mario and Luigi. We're going to learn some inside tricks to Super Mario Bros. 3, but first, this commercial break.
Going back to the early days of video games journalism, games magazines such as Nintendo Power were owned and operated by games companies themselves. This was, of course, fairly obvious. What you read in those magazines could be taken with a grain of salt, in the upfront knowledge that it would be hideously biased. The industry was also smaller at that time, and the corruption had less of a consequence. Things were not, yet, as serious.
Today on Game Pro, we'll review the latest installment of the hit series Mega Man with Mega Man 4. Live play-by-play comes to your home in Joe Montana 2. A secret tip to recharge all your powers in Super Mario World. And climb aboard the monster train with Bonk and warp past an entire world. All this and mondo more on Game Pro. As always, we've got the up-to-the-minute news you're waiting for, and we get it from the #1 source in gamer goodies, Game Pro magazine.
Magazines, back when these kind of things were in print, were either glorified catalogues for their parent company or enthusiast press, not dissimilar to any other niche interest hobby. Early games writers were drawn from the hobbyists who constructed computers with no real agenda and a pragmatic view towards games. Did they work? Were the graphics good? Did they show something cool that the computer could do? Were they fun? That was pretty much the extent of their interest in it. Things began to get more serious as the games industry began to explode in popularity and worth.
Here we are, the excitement is everywhere. We're on the floor of the Electronic Entertainment Expo in Los Angeles, California, with a special edition of GameSpot TV.
Yeah, this is E3. This is the one time a year event where all the major players in the industry get together, show off their wares, see what the other guy has, and schmooze.
Once gaming in and of itself became more of a thing, you began to see specialist games reviewers. These were perhaps a bit more discerning. These kind of reviews began with breathless enthusiasm, turning to more cynicism and humour in their observations going into the 90s.
Tired of all the fun and entertainment in your gaming television? Then we've got the hardcore program that strips the fun off of the games and focuses on what's really important. Adam Sessler's opinion. This is Meet the Cess. It's insightful.
My has more life than the PSP battery. Nintendo is a Japanese company. Funny how a company named Rare hasn't put out a good game in 5 years.
It's unbiased.
I f***ing hate all of these games.
He's not afraid of asking the tough questions.
So you like Xenosaga?
Yes.
What the f*** is your problem?
He doesn't pull punches. He doesn't hold back.
We're gonna raise money to fund an army and hunt down those steely-eyed insurgents that are green-lighting the Mega Man games. You wanna know how to fix Social Security? You send robot jackals from the future to consume the geriatrics of the present.
Trust us, he doesn't play happy grab-ass with his guests.
Just because Grand Theft Auto San Andreas sold 6 million copies in no way proves that gaming has gone mainstream.
You know, if I ever said something that stupid, I would shave my ass and shoot myself.
Meet the Cess.
If I cared about your opinion, you'd have a television show.
Things began to get more serious as the games industry began to explode in popularity and worth. games reviews began to shift online and to an advertising rather than a subscription or sales revenue model.
What's the first thing you guys are going to do once you get in the game world, you got a car, what are you going to do?
Drive around and look for a helicopter and just like fly over the city.
Okay, that's
helicopter first. That's a good one, actually.
13. Are you sure you're here for Grand Theft Auto?
Probably pick up a hooker.
Probably try to kill as many people as I can. I try to steal as many cars as I can, and hopefully that'll serve me as training in real life.
So do you have a... In keeping with real life, I'm going to get hammered. You can actually get hammered in this one? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you can even drive drunk if you want to.
All right,
Not
perfect.
that I endorse it, kids.
But this was also the period, the 2000s, in which financial corruption began to creep in seriously. Companies wielded their direct and indirect financial muscle to demand better reviews and to ensure cooperation by games media outlets. Failure to cooperate would mean the loss of early access and advertising revenue.
If you're looking for a review of Halo 4, this is not the video that you want. That video is actually on this channel, so go watch that and then come back and watch this, because this is infinitely much stupider. We got this box in the mail.
This has given advertisers and sponsors an enormous amount of power over games media outlets through their direct or indirect sponsorships.
I don't know if those are software companies or... No, they're snack foods, who am I kidding?
Another aspect of this is that those outlets rely on access to games to write their stories, get clicks, and hence advertising revenue. To get early access, to get early release copies of games, to make reviews and guides and so on, they need to maintain a good relationship with the game studios.
And here to help us find our way through the chaos, Sony's Kyle Schubel. How are you, Kyle? I'm doing great, Kevin. How you doing?
Bad reviews risk losing revenue and access. Lost access meant fewer exclusives and a delay in news, fatal in the immediacy of the internet. At the same time, you have issues around the games media regarding nepotism and corruption. Payola has long been the case, and sponsorship has been at the status of self-parody for years.
Please stay in the business, get excited about being a game journalist, because we need more great game journalists. But what I would say is you need to find your unique angle. You need to find something that you can own as your own. And I talk to a lot of young, aspiring game journalists, and you know they're writing previews or they're writing a review, and that's great, or they're covering the news. But what you really need to do is kind of find your own niche.
Oh yeah, I'm a journalist. You hear me, Neil Gaff? You hear me, Jeff Keighley? Mountain Dew, call me, because I need to get this tattoo touched up. I know that much, and let's be honest, I have no shame.
While this was derided and criticised, it became the accepted status quo. Everyone knew review scores were nonsense.
All right, first we're going to talk about Dragon Age 2 so we can get Miguel's ass out of here. So, what's up with that game, dude? You gave it a big score. 9.2.
Why?
What?
Why?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Oh, Miguel, man, look, I gotta...
Did you know opinions
I gotta
could be
take issue with that.
Everyone knew that pay-for-reviews and other nastiness was taking place, and so everything was taken with a grain of salt.
I wonder if Microsoft paid them to give Killzone 2 a 5. Is Greek Nerd making a really funny joke? Like the way that we always get accused of taking money from Microsoft, and we just still take money from Microsoft even if it's for a Sony game? Or did you get it completely wrong as you're trying to impugn my integrity? Okay, here's what I have to say for everyone out there that loves to say that we get money from things, just so you have some sort of context of what that means in light of what we do for a living. Do you f*** your mother? Yeah, you don't like the implication of that. Don't impugn my integrity. You've been working in the games industry as a journalist for a long time. Yeah. How have you seen gaming journalism change in all this time?
Well, I think, gaming journalism has changed in a lot of the same ways that the game industry has changed over the last, 11 or 12 years. It's become a much bigger business all around. The kind of freewheeling days of, pre-E3 back at CES when the games were there, of just like crazy debauchery out in this tent out at CES and all this stuff. All that stuff's long gone, and, the suits have kind of taken over.
But in addition to that, we've really seen the rise of the blogs, places like Kotaku and Destructoid, that have really taken a preeminent position because of their ability to update news so regularly. Have you seen that change the way that everyone's trying to report on the games industry?
I think so. I think that's something that you're seeing across the internet, not necessarily just covering games, but just these smaller, more nimble teams are able to kind of attack what's most important right at that moment. And sites like Joystick and Kotaku and Destructoid, and I think they've been really good at doing that stuff.
A higher profile example of the same problem came with Gerstmann Gate.
Mr. Kane, what? I need you to cover your head.
What did you say?
Just cover your head now!
These guys, we asked them to come up with 5 case studies, 5 examples. We're going to break those down with these guys.
Kane and Lynch Dead Men is an ugly, ugly game. That's not necessarily me talking just about the graphics. It's got a really ugly storyline with characters that are impossible to like, and it's a third-person shooter that has several gameplay flaws as well.
Jeff Berstmann had reviewed Kane and Lynch a 6.0 for GameSpot. He was then later fired because it was scored too low.
A 6, which in any sane world would be considered above average.
The internet, of course, has been ablaze with conspiracy theories suggesting that Jeff was fired because of this single bad Kane and Lynch review. Mike, let's start with you. Do you believe that this is the truth? And why is the real story such a secret here? I mean, it was a pretty high-profile firing.
The website was covered in ads for Kane and Lynch. And this is something that's been in the industry at least the last 10 years, which we know from personal account of Dan Shu, former editor-in-chief of Entertainment Gaming Monthly.
I forgot what company he was at the time, but I asked one of my industry contacts, like, can you buy covers? A few contacts said, oh yeah, absolutely. We just set up meetings with the publisher. We bring in our salespeople and we'll make a proposal. Like, we'll spend, the numbers at the time they were throwing around was $25,000 will get us the cover, possibly a back cover, and they'll do an ad buy package.
I don't know that we really know the real story behind what happened with Jeff Gerstmann, and we may never know.
Do we know that that's why that guy got fired?
Yes, we know that's why he got fired, because he later went on to form another website that was owned by CBS.
Publisher of the game had threatened to pull advertising money.
There's no indication to the reader whatsoever that this is really sponsored content.
CBS then acquired GameSpot, and he was no longer forced by an NDA to not speak about it. He could actually clear the air.
But with a team in place that wasn't experienced at dealing with these issues, it kind of became like this 3-alarm fire.
The kind of culture we had at Electronic Gaming Monthly and our sister properties was always one of honesty and straightforwardness with the readers.
That's why we know, because only years later, when the legal information had cleared and it was no longer going to hurt some brand, we go into it.
I got called into fairly intense meetings. A lot of really crazy things were said at me, threats and stuff about what was going to happen as a result of this review and stuff like that.
I remember my editorial director at the time, I asked him when I interviewed, well, how do you deal with these situations where the advertisers pull advertising and you depend on that revenue, you depend on that income? And he said, you know what, it doesn't matter, you service the readers.
From my perspective, we did what an editorial team does, and we did what we were supposed to be doing.
And it took 5 years for the other details to come out, including suggestions that other companies were applying similar financial pressure to games review sites.
So he said, just always worry about that, and that has stuck with me to this day.
Yeah, that's how old-fashioned EGM was.
These problems have led a lot of gamers to an exodus away from the larger game sites, seeking out those who promise a more ethical and honest approach.
What quickly becomes obvious is that Witcher is very much a PC-exclusive game, which are typically designed to be as complex and unintuitive as possible so that those dirty console-playing peasants don't ruin it for the glorious PC gaming master race.
These are the top 10 gaming controversies of 2012! No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, they fucking are!
As YouTube became more popular, the same corruption issues began to appear there.
Hello, I'm Angry Joe, and this is my review of Halo 4. It's a good game, and I got plenty of bonus XP.